Mr. President, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura.
I know you're heading to Pittsburgh tomorrow, and Rabbi Jeffrey Myers from the Tree of Life Synagogue said last night the following.
I want to address for a moment some of our political leaders who are here. Ladies and gentlemen, it has to start with you as our leaders. My words are not intended as political fodder. Stop the words of hate.
So given his words, what do you think your role tomorrow will be and should be?
Well, I'm just going to pay my respects. I'm also going to the hospital to see the officers and some of the people that were so badly hurt. And I really look forward to going. I would have done it even sooner, but I didn't want to disrupt any more than they already had disruption. But as far as what the rabbi said, I agree with him.
The word nationalism has taken on for the left this connotation of fueling anti-Semitism, hate, even violence. Do you think that is fair, and do you want to further clarify what nationalism means to you?
To me, I don't have to clarify. It means I love the country. It means I'm fighting for the country. I look at two things, globalists and nationalists. I'm somebody that wants to take care of our country because for many, many years, you know this better than anybody, our leaders have been more worried about the world than they have about the United States, and they leave us in a mess. Whether it's the wars, whether it's the economy, whether it's debt, whether it's all of the things that they've done, including putting in the wrong Supreme Court justices, and we've really put two great ones in. No, I'm proud of this country. And I call that nationalism. I call it being a nationalist. And I don't see any other connotation than that. Now, as soon as you make any statement nowadays with the political correctness world, they make a big deal. I'm not a globalist, but I want to take care of the globe. But first, I have to take care of our country. I want to help people around the world, but we have to take care of our country or we won't have a country, including we have to take care of our country at the border.
When you hear people use the phrase anti-Semitism to describe anything connected to you. You have a Jewish daughter, you have grandchildren who are Jewish. What's your reaction to that?
And I just received an award from the state of Israel, from Bibi Netanyahu, thanking me because I moved as you know, the embassy to Jerusalem, making Jerusalem the capital of Israel. And I just did that. Now, how many presidents said they were going to do it and they never did it? Many, many presidents. I won't go over the names, but I can tell you every one of them. I can tell you what every one of them said. I just opened up, and we opened it up. We didn't just name it. You know, it was going to take years and years to build, and it was going to cost over $1 billion. I opened up a beautiful building for $400,000, already opened, saved well over $1 billion. And it's opened after 4 months.
And you were criticized for that, too. You were criticized at the time, I believe, for being too pro-Palestinian, and now you're criticized on the other side.
And in fact, this horrible human being, this terrible person that did the shooting, he was not a Donald Trump fan because he said I was too close to Israel. So that seemed to be his reasoning. So I will tell you, I'm going to show you right after this, I'm going to show you the most beautiful plaque. It just came. They must have known you were going to be doing this interview, but it was sent by Bibi Netanyahu thanking me for opening the embassy in Jerusalem, which, as you know, is like the biggest deal.
The phrase enemy of the people, another phrase that's been seized upon by many in the media, many on CNN, but not just CNN. There was a woman who was just on CNN a short while ago saying that you have radicalized more people than ISIS.
I think, you know, this president, one of the things that he really launched his presidential run on is talking about Islamic radicalization. And this president has radicalized so many more people than ISIS ever did.
What do you base it upon,
ISIS had like 10,000 members. I think the president has far more supporters who espouse an equally hateful ideology.
That was CNN today.
Well, that must be some kind of a sick woman. When I say the enemy of the people, I'm talking about the fake news, and you know it better than anybody. You have news out there that is so fake, and I can do the greatest thing ever, North Korea. As an example, we would have been going to war. Normal would have been going to war with North Korea. I think President Obama would have gone to war if he had an extra year, he would be in right now a war with North Korea. He told me it was by far, and I'm not knocking him for this, he said it's by far his biggest problem. Look at what we've done. And yet, when they talk about North Korea, they say, What's taking so long?
But you know they're
This
going to
has
be
been- wait a minute,
biased.
Yeah, but
you know they're
this has
going to
been
be
going on
biased.
for 70 some odd years.
Yeah.
And they say, I left Singapore, where we had our meeting,
Yeah.
where we really had a very good meeting and a good relationship, like, what, 4 months ago. They say the new line is, what's taking so long? I say, we have
But
plenty
how
of
does it
time.
help expand your base to call them the enemy of the people? How does it help
Because
America
I'll
heal
tell you
in
what,
times
it's
like
a very
this?
good question, very fair. Before we finish, though, so we've done a great job with North Korea. Then they said, we can't get them on anything because the sanctions are on. We got everything. There's no missiles. We got our hostages back. We have the remains coming back, everything. So now they said, he met. The new line is,
Well,
I
of course.
met.
But
Now,
why
listen
are you
to this.
expecting they're going to be fair to you?
No, but think of it.
They're never going to be fair
But
to you.
Laura, think of it. I met. Okay, that's their new line. I shouldn't have met. So, and if you go back to before I got here, it looked like we were going to war, a bad war with North Korea. So,
But I was here with Reagan. I worked for Reagan. They called him stupid, dumb, slept in the afternoon, incompetent, a warmonger, and he always kind of. He was like he had steely, but he was
but he didn't have social media.
Yeah, that's true.
He would have fought back. He didn't have social media. It's my form of telling the truth. Here's the problem. We have a lot of supporters. You know that better than anybody. All you have to do is look at your ratings, okay? But you know it better than anybody. Those supporters know that they're lying. I watched Meet the Press this weekend. Everything was so falsely putting words in people's mouths.
Are they trying to hobble you in the midterms because you're the best
100%.
closer for this party? That's what the Republicans
They're
are saying.
going out of their way, and I'm getting 25 and 30,000 people to these rallies. Nobody's ever seen it. There has never been anything. This isn't bragging. There has never been anything like what's happening. I went to Illinois. You had to see a Boeing 747, this massive hangar, packed, and they had to use a second hangar for the overflow. Nobody's seen anything.
Yeah.
And always, look what happened for Ted Cruz, who's doing great now. We left Houston. He's now doing great. They don't even talk about that race, and his opponent is not very good.
The bomber who sent the letters to the CNN and Democrats was a fan of yours. He obviously also seen as insane, completely insane. So what do you say about that? You put bomb in quotes. They went crazy over that, too, over the weekend because you used the word bomb in quotes.
Look at it.
Would you like to kind of...
No, look. He was insane a long time before you look at his medical records. He was insane for a long time. Bernie Sanders had a fan who shot a very good friend of ours, Steve Scalise, and other people. He was a total maniac. Nobody puts his name in the headline, Bernie Sanders in the headline with the maniac.
In fact, Nancy Pelosi said, do not politicize this, back at the time.
I was in the headline of the Washington Post, my name associated with this crazy bomber.
Yeah.
Trump bomber or something. But I was in the headline when they got him. They didn't say bomber found. They talked about Trump in the headline. Now, they didn't do that with Bernie Sanders when he had. They didn't do that with the Democrats when other people came out. They didn't do that with President Obama with the church, the horrible situation with the church. They didn't do that. They put my name in the headlines. It's when I say enemy of the people, I'm talking about the fake news, and it is fake.
Which
and the thing is,
organizations?
my people understand. One quick story. So a reporter for the Washington Post does a story that a place that I was doing, an arena, was empty. And he shows a picture. Not a very good crowd, Mr. Trump, something to that effect. And then it turned out that he took the picture 5 hours before the people started coming into the arena. The arena was packed, and there were thousands of people outside. They had to retract it. But this is the kind of dishonesty that we have.
Obama is kind of following you on the campaign trail. He was in Wisconsin.
How are his crowds?
Yeah, Wisconsin. He's going to Florida this week. And he brought up the issue of the Caravan. And he said the following.
They're trying to convince everybody to be afraid of a bunch of impoverished, malnourished refugees 1,000 miles away. That's the thing that is the most important thing in this election. Not health care, not whether or not folks are able to retire. Suddenly, it's this group of folks. We don't even know where they are. They're way down there. Don't fall for that kind of fear-mongering.
We're scaremongering people on the border.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to do the opposite. It's the problem with our country. When you look at that caravan and you look largely, very, big percentage of men, young, strong, a lot of bad people in there, people that are in gangs, We don't want them in this country. If they want to come into the country, you have to apply like other people. We have millions of people coming in. They're applying. They're coming in legally. We have a very strong border. I called up the military. This caravan is not, they're wasting their time. They are not coming into the country.
What's the military going to be able to do? Obama and Bush both sent the National Guard.
But
it had no effect.
They're not me. This is I'm sending up the military. This is the military. And they're standing there. And one thing that will happen.
No lethal force.
When they're captured, we don't let them out. What has been happening, and we're not as of pretty recently, we're not letting them out. What happens is they would catch and release. We're catching. We're not releasing. So if they want to come over, but we're not even doing that. We're not letting them into this country. We're not going to let gang members.
But what if they're applying for asylum? Isn't the law because Congress didn't change the law?
If they apply for asylum, we're going to hold them until such time as their trial takes place.
Where? Do we have the facilities?
We're going to build tent cities. We're going to put tents up all over the place. We're not going to build structures and spend all of this, hundreds of millions of dollars. We're going to have tents. They're going to be very nice, and they're going to wait. And if they don't get asylum, they get out. And very few people, they don't actually, if you want to wait, they don't usually get asylum. You know that.
80%.
The problem is they release them in, and then they have the trial 3 years later, and nobody shows up. But we are going to, unlike Obama and unlike others, we are going to take the people, we're going to put them in, and they're going to wait. And you know what? Two things happen. When they find out that that happens, you're going to have far fewer people come up. And also, President Obama separated children from parents. Nobody talks about this.
So a judge came along and said, can't do it.
He separated. No, President Obama separated.
No, in the beginning.
Okay, just so we all understand.
The New York Times is saying the military, Mr. President, being called up by you is an election year play. Is this politics or is this real?
When you look at that, thousands of people. Somebody said, now on that one they build it down. I'm pretty good at figuring out how many people. Thousands and thousands of people on the bridge. When you looked at that bridge loaded up with people, that's called an invasion of our country. This has nothing to do with elections. And I've been saying this long before election. I've been saying this before I ever thought of running for office. We have to have strong borders. If we don't have strong borders, we don't have a country.
Democrats are worried about the Latino vote suddenly. They're worried they're not going to get the numbers to show up.
They should be.
Why?
You know why? Because the Latinos, the Hispanic Americans have the best unemployment numbers and employment numbers in the history of our country. The African Americans have the best employment and unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Asians, best employment numbers in the history of our country. Women, 65 years. All of these things. Women have the best numbers they've had in 65 years. They should be worried.